Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Deva, glories to Jagat Krishna Prabhupada. And Mother VrajaLila, thank you so much for being here. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm always honored and blessed and privileged to be on this forum. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, I don't think we need any introduction. Today, we are very fortunate. We are very fortunate we have Mother VrajaLila who is speaking today. So, Mother Vraj, if you're ready, I'll put the verse on the screen and then you may take it over from here.
Okay.
Okay.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 19, Text 26. Let's do the Sanskrit. Let's do the we'll do the Sanskrit then the synonyms. Tam dvishyata vasham sukhamara pada karo rubhav hamsa kapola gatram javaktakshonasha tulya karya. Subhi, somehow there's a dark spot here. I don't know what that's coming from. Do you know what that is, Saha? Because
Okay, I'm going to fix it.
okay. And somebody else is working that. I have my book just in case. Okay. All right, I'll do this again. Tamdwav Shatalvasham Sukumara Pada Karorubav Amsha Kapo Lakatram Javastyat Kacho Nashatulya Karya Subhiriv Ananlyam Kambu Shijata Katyam. The synonyms: tam, him; Driv Ashta, 16, Varsham, years; Kumara, delicate; Para, legs; Kara, hands; Uru, thighs; Bahu, arms; Amsa, shoulders; Kapola, forehead; Katram, body; Charu, beautiful; Ayata, broad; Aksha, eyes; Unasa, high nose; Tulya, similar; Karnya, ears; Subhiru, nice brows; Ananam, face; Kambu, conch shell; Sujata, nicely built; Katam, neck. Srila Prabhupada's translation and his purport. This son of Vyasadeva was only 16 years old. His legs, arms, thighs, his legs, hands, thighs, arms, shoulders, forehead, and the other parts of his body were all delicately formed. His eyes were beautifully wide, and his nose and ears were highly raised. He had a very attractive face, and his neck was well formed and beautiful, like a conch shell. Srila Prabhupada's purport. A respectable personality is described beginning with the legs, and this honored system is observed here with Sukadeva Goswami. He was only 16 years of age. A person is honored for his achievements and not for advanced age. A person can be older by experience and not by age. Srila Sukadeva Goswami, who is described herein as the son of Vyasadeva, was by his knowledge more experienced than all the sages present there, although he was only 16 years old. Om Gyanati Mirandasya Gyanagana Shalakaya Chakshu Amritamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajiva Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavari Pastatya Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swamini Tinamine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shitatvani Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Tinamine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatarubhyascha Vipasindubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I read the translation again. The son of Vyasadeva was only 16 years old. His legs, hands, thighs, arms, shoulders, forehead, and the other parts of his body were all delicately formed. His eyes were beautifully wide, and his nose and ears were highly raised. He had a very attractive face, and his neck was well formed and beautiful, like a conch shell. Nitai Gaura Haribol. So The description of this most amazing devotee of the Lord. And so we can see how important every aspect of a devotee is, because there are verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam that's helping us to listen, to hear the description of the devotee. So just imagine how devotees are so beautiful. They're beautiful in how we see their forms, and they're beautiful in how we hear their knowledge, and they're beautiful in how they're exemplary in Krishna consciousness. So yesterday I listened to a class from the devotee that gave the class the day before, and he gave such a beautiful summary of who Sukadeva Goswami is. So we're not going to go back into that, because I think he did a beautiful, beautiful service with that. And because now he actually opened the verse on the appearance of Sukadeva Goswami. So he opened us into this next adventure of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this next adventure of learning about this great personality. And this personality is, in this part of the Bhagavatam, he is going to make a dramatic transcendental appearance. And we heard all about who he is, and, just so much about his character. And now we're going to hear a little bit about his beauty. And so Prabhupada is helping us to understand so much about the beautiful form of the Lord, of Shukadeva Goswami, who is a replica of Krishna. It's described actually in Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, that these characteristics of Shukadeva Goswami are non-different from those of Krishna, Lord Chaitanya. So I wanted to take a minute just to read something from the Adi Lila about these characteristics, these physical characteristics of Shukadeva Goswami. We know that it's explained in the CC that a great personality has 32 characteristics. There's different aspects of beauty as far as it's described in our scriptures, in our sastras. So I'm going to read very short, what was explained about how we can start even beginning to understand a little bit about these characteristics. Prabhupada is making two important points. And I know the second point, we're all waiting to hear about this young person being so respected. However, he's also making the point of his beauty. And, we don't want to just kind of wave over that, because that's important. There's so many different sages in this assembly. And here comes this striking young person that's just so amazingly beautiful, that captures everyone just on sight. Just by seeing him, they're captured. And so we want to hear a little bit about how someone can be captured by a pure devotee of the Lord just by seeing them, seeing that person. So in the CC, it's explained when Jagannath Mishra, when he saw the wonderful marks on the soul of his son, he became very much joyful and privately called Nilambar Chakravarti. So as you know, Jagannath Mishra is Lord Chaitanya's father. And so he saw these marks on Lord Chaitanya. And so then he called the astrologer, Nilambar Chakravarti, just so he could understand what is it about all these marks. And so when Nilambar Chakravarti saw those marks, he smilingly said, "Formally, it is I had ascertained all this by astrological calculation and noted it in writing." So Nilambar Chakravarti, he already saw these marks in his astrological reading of Lord Chaitanya. And so now he's explaining that there are 32 bodily marks that symptomize a great personality. And I see all those marks on the body of this child, Lord Chaitanya. There are 32 bodily symptoms of a great person. And so here we have Krishnadas Kaviraj explaining 5 of his bodily parts are large. 5 of them are large. So we heard that, here we are hearing about the thighs, and we're hearing about the arms, and we know Lord Chaitanya's arms went all the way down to his knees. And so 5 are large, 5 are fine, 7 are reddish, 6 raised, 3 small, 3 broad, and 3 grave. And so then I'll just do the purport really quickly. Prabhupada is explaining the 5 large parts are the nose, arms, chin, eyes, and knees. The 5 fine parts are the skin, fingertips, feet, hair on the body, and hair on the head. The 7 reddish parts are the eyes, soles, arms, palate, nails, and upper and lower lips. The 6 raised parts are the chest, shoulders, nails, nose, waist, and mouth. The 3 small parts are the neck, thighs, and male organs. The 3 broad parts are the waist, forehead, and chest. The 3 grave parts are the navel, voice, and existence. Existence. Altogether, these are the 32 symptoms of a great personality. This is a quotation from the Samudrika. So this is from the CC. And so what's noted in this explanation of these 32 parts are that people are beautiful in many different ways, if we can look at those parts and how they're explained by VrajaLila Prabhupada. Haribol Sati Devi, Hare Krishna. We can understand that these, as Shukadeva is being described, and we hear about, the different parts of his body, we also know that there's thousands of sages in this assembly. We learned that they came from all over the universes. And so all of these different sages, they had all different aspects of these explanations that's given to us in say Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it's really important the reason I put a little emphasis on this is that we have a tendency to think beauty looks a certain way. And we tend to think that according to our societal norms, that a person is considered beautiful only if there's this or that or that. And we're hearing from that Lord Chaitanya himself had all of these different characteristics, 32 of them. And we know that from these descriptions that we're hearing about Shukadeva Goswami, that also he had, so all of these descriptions, or at least many of these descriptions, and every devotee has some of these descriptions, just like all of these sages had so many of these descriptions. So this is important for us as devotees, because this verse really is helping us to understand Vaishnav culture, Vaishnav etiquette, Vaishnav mood of how we interact with each other. And because there's so much of our interaction is based on our physical connection with each other, the tendency is to think that the physical, which sometimes relate to our age or, how long we've been involved in something, that's what's important. We tend to, just kind of formulate our acceptance or non-acceptance of a person based on how we've been socialized. And so this is why scripture is so very important to help us, because oftentimes scripture takes us away from our socialization. The socialization process is so different in every part of the world. And so the culture, to understand why the culture of Vaishnavism is important, is because it helps us to move away from these different socialization, these different ideas that have been introduced to us, that may come from just another person. However, we know that information coming from the scriptures are eternal. We know that this knowledge that is being given to us, especially in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and especially spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, is knowledge that is to release the soul from all of these different upadis that we may have given to us by our different socializations in this world. So from this verse, the thing that came very clear to me is the importance of the culture of respect. That's a part of Vaishnava culture. That's a part of the actually a part of the culture of the world. However, yes, we know that in conditioned life that many people may not understand this aspect of culture. However, this part of the culture is a part of civilization. You know, civilization actually has a foundation of respect for each other, respect for every living entity. Krishna explains like that, you know, every aspect of creation is a part of him. And so therefore, every aspect of creation is to be respected, not just human beings. So here we have Shukadeva Goswami, he's 16 years old, and he's entering into this assembly, and he's beautiful because he has these characteristics that's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And all of the sages are just, as we heard yesterday, so nicely from that devotee, I think his name is Alankar, something like that, Alanath or something. Anyway, we heard from him that these sages, you know, they were just, because they were trying to decide who would speak. And then as providence would have it, Krishna actually, the Lord arranged Shukadeva Goswami, would just walk into this atmosphere. And they are all stunned by this beauty of this personality. And they are aware that this personality has knowledge. They're aware just by how this person appears, just by how this person looks. Just like I'm looking at a face right now that's looking at me, and I can see Bizigri Dominique. Bizigri Dominique. I love that. That's French. You must be from Côte d'Ivoire, somewhere like that. I'm just looking at his face, and there's an intrigue in his face, like, what? Who is this, and what is she talking about? And so we can act, even us as regular human beings, we can look at people and we can have some idea of something that's going on with them. Now, these sages, they're very mystical. They're not like ordinary people. So they could tell when he walked in the atmosphere, when he walked in that environment, immediately they stopped trying to figure out who was going to speak, because they could understand that this person is a direct representative of the Supreme Lord. So now what's interesting in this atmosphere is this person walks in, Sukadeva Goswami walks in, he's 16 years old, he's naked, he's being followed by all these girls and different people, as you heard yesterday. And so when he walks in the atmosphere, they all go away, because now he's in the midst of these this great assembly of sages. And his father is there. This is what's so interesting. Sukadeva sat down to speak, and his father is there. His guru is there. Narada Muni is there. So he's there in an assembly of very elevated personalities, and he's accepted. He's accepted. This makes me think a little bit of a devotee that I see sometimes on the of course, I'm not comparing him to Shukadeva Goswami. However, I was always very inspired and encouraged by seeing his enthusiasm and his desire to share Krishna consciousness. He's, I believe, Bhaktidir Damodar Maharaj's disciple, and his name, I believe, is Madhusudan something. I believe he is from Mumbai. I think I don't remember correctly. But anyway, I know he's now he's probably not in so much of a young body anymore, but he was in a young body, and he's quite knowledgeable quite knowledgeable and always eager, to share Krishna consciousness. So this is, I'm just using this example, and there's so many others, just how somehow my thoughts went to that person, to help us to understand how this is possible. And sometimes we read Bhagavatam, especially if we're new to reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and we think, is this mythical? Is this real? This person can just walk with all of these elevated persons and be respected in the way that he was respected. Sometimes we may not understand that. However, we do have that even today. We have people that are quite young, that are very knowledgeable and very enthusiastic, to share Krishna consciousness. And those persons that are senior, they do respect these persons. They do get inspired by these persons. So this is the transcendental situation that's going on here. Shukadeva Goswami walking in. So again, his physiognomy, his body is just like so sacred, and they understand this. They could look at this and see this person is not an ordinary person. So we want to hear from him. Now, here comes the lesson that Srila Prabhupada is helping us to understand, that in our socialization, we are conditioned to thinking that if somebody is older, that means that they're more knowledgeable, or that they should be superior. That's the socialization in most parts of this planet. And so Prabhupada gives this little purport and brings into our attention that no, that is not necessarily the case. That somebody can be very young in age, and still be very knowledgeable. And so now, how do we deal with that? How do we deal with that? Given that we are conditioned, given that we do have this idea or these thoughts or this training that because I'm older, because I'm in an older body, or because I'm a male, or because whatever, that I am more knowledgeable. And so Prabhupada is now going to help us to understand. Let's dive a little deep into what Prabhupada wants us to get from this purport. So firstly, it requires that we accept that we're socialized by our material conditioning. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is to step outside of that as best as we can, according to our understanding, to really be able to enter into this paradigm of respect and what respect really means. What is respect? We say respect is the basis of civilization. It's one of the bases of civilization. We understand that even in the very beginning, so to speak, of creation, we hear how Krishna expands himself. And we hear that, coming all the way down to, let's say, Lord Brahma. And we hear about even the demigods. And we hear so often many pastimes about these very elevated souls like the demigods that have respect for Krishna, respect for that person that they know is the Supreme Personality of God. So that respect actually starts from the Lord. It starts from us having respect for the Lord. When we don't have respect for the Lord, then it becomes a bit of a challenge. It becomes a bit of a problem. So what is respect? When we look at respect, we hear this word, the culture of respect. Yes, there is a culture of respect. It is a part of the Vedic paradigm. But what is it? What is it? What is that? So again, if we look at all of these aspects of persons that have expanded from the Lord, and we see the relationship between those persons and the Lord, we see that when those personalities that are coming from, all of us are coming from the Lord, however, those persons that may have some direct service with the Lord, we see that when they're in crisis, we see that when they're having to make decisions, we see that when something has gone not according to plan, ultimately they turn to the Lord, ultimately, because they understand who actually is creating, maintaining, taking care of everything all of the universes. They have that understanding. So they know the supreme authority. They understand the supreme authority. So respect is a quality that is arranged within the beings of living entities to be able to understand and accept authority. Now, what kind of authority? There are many different kinds of authority. Who should we respect? Why should we respect them? So many different types of authorities, especially in conditioned life, there are innumerable authorities. So this is important because we understand, as those that are endeavoring to practice bhakti, that the ultimate authority is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is our ultimate authority. And we have learned that that authority has made arrangements for all of us to get knowledge, to become aware of who we are, and what is it that we're supposed to do? Why are we here? Why are we in these bodies? So the Supreme Personality of Godhead has made that arrangement, that supreme authority. And through his representatives, we can then begin to become aware of some of these different aspects of ourselves. Why do I have this body? Why do I think the way I do? What is it? Why was I born in certain places? What is that? We get this understanding from studying the scriptures. However, underneath this understanding, there has to be that culture of respect to be able to be a recipient of this knowledge, of this understanding. So firstly, that requires humility. And we hear that from Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya's prayers, he tells us in every one of those shlokas to develop this mood of humility, right? Trinadapi. So that is the prerequisite to developing this mood of respect. Now, as we start entering into this wonderful paradigm, it's like an adventure of respecting authorities. It's important to know, like, but how do I do this? I mean, what anybody can be an authority. And I heard VrajaLila asking yesterday a beautiful question about authority. So how do I understand all this? What happens if I have an authority that's giving me some instruction that might not be representative of the supreme ultimate authority? These are all very wonderful, beautiful explorations for us to all kind of look at. So now that's given to us in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the beauty of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's explained that in this culture of respect, there's a way that we relate to each other. And we see this example in this pastime. We see that this dramatic appearance of this young person, beautiful person, the sages are captured. And they're captured by the beauty, and then they will be captured by the knowledge of Shukadeva Goswami. And so in that way, in that understanding of just firstly, that attraction, there is a way to be respectful of each other. We see the sages, how they were respectful to Shukadeva Goswami. So first, we must understand our social position, right? So we understand that to be our varna in terms of the being in this material world. Krishna explains to us, I think it's in the 7th chapter, that this material energy of mind is difficult to overcome. And in order to overcome it, Shriman Varaha Prabhu, what's the other part of that verse? In order to overcome material nature, it's difficult.
You have to surrender unto him.
Right, okay. So in order to do that in this world, in order to surrender unto Krishna, it's important to know what is our varna, what is our position. So in this situation, in this pastime, Maharaj Parikshit is a king, right? And he's going to die. And he's trying to get this knowledge, and he's trying to understand what is going to happen. How is he supposed to deal with this, that he's going to die? And so he understood his position as a king. So he humbled himself in an assembly to learn what to do, how to do what to do in his life, how to do it. So this is very important to know about respect, how we give respect. So as a king, he gave Yeah, thank you. This divine energy of mind and system of the three modes is it, but those who have surrendered can easily cross up beyond it. Beautiful verse. The verse to really yeah, spend our time thinking about it, because yeah, sometimes we forget how difficult this material energy is, and we think on our own that we're going to get out of the material energy. We think like that sometimes. However, no, it's not so simple, and it's not so easy. And so this is, so in order to understand how to get out of this material energy, this principle of respect is very important. And so we understand our varna, we understand our ashram, so the stages of our life where we are, you know, in terms of Shukadev Goswami, he was beyond all of this because he was transcendental, right? So we're looking at this in relationship to who we are here in this conditioned state. Then we want to look at Diksha, when a person took initiation. That's important in terms of understanding the culture of respect. We also want to look at our age. What age do we have? You know, what's our age? And then we also want to look at the spiritual, the spiritual quality of the person, the spiritual characteristic of the person. How is the person spiritually advanced? What kind of knowledge does the person have? How can the person really affect, you know, someone in terms of understanding the science of bhakti? This is all important. And we see this in Srila Prabhupada in his very elderly age. He was respected because he had knowledge. He had understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Shukadev, he's a classic example of a devotee that's like superior. He's like superior because of his spiritual advancement. We know that the reason that he's considered superior, reason he is superior, is because all these sages bowed down to him. They bowed down, and they were old, many of them much, much older than him. And so they didn't think of his age. So when he came to the banks of the Ganges, as we heard in previous verses, he was just, you know, when he was seated amongst the sages like that, they were just so inspired by his presence that they would have sat there, even probably if he didn't say anything. Now that's a speculation on my part, of course. However, even if he didn't say anything, they were so enthralled by just as simple, just by his presence. So this is an aspect of a person that is spiritually advanced. And this aspect of a spiritually advanced person, Prabhupada tells us, for us to understand it, is called an Uttama Adhikari, for us to even begin to understand these different layers, these different kinds of personalities that are in our midst and on the path of bhakti. And so for those persons that are considered, let's say, very spiritually elevated, it's understood in the heart, even from the most degraded person, that that person deserves some kind of, even if we don't call it respect, some kinds of reverence. Even as we travel in different places, we see that, you know, when a person is saintly, no matter what tradition they come from, we see that they're given some type of reverence according to, you know, how the person is acculturated to giving reverence. And so in our tradition, when someone is senior, we offer respect and service, right? We give service to those persons. And what's the best service to give in those situations is to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, right? This is the best service that we can offer, or that someone that's in that position of Uttama Adhikari, that's what they offer. They offer sharing about the Lord, the glories of the Lord, which is what Shukadev Goswami is doing. This is what he's teaching us by his example, that he's going to share the glories of the Lord, the pastimes of the Lord and his devotees. And then there are the juniors, and we can, in some ways, we can well, maybe I won't go there, but then let's just look at the juniors. The juniors, how do we interact with someone that might be junior to us? Someone that maybe they may be in age younger, they may be in initiation, they may have taken initiation younger, at a earlier, maybe when they took initiation, we already had taken initiation, so we're older and taking initiation. When we look at those persons, when we're around, we're in association, how do we deal with those persons? So we offer those persons affection and care, right? Somebody that's junior to us. If a junior person is not experiencing affection and care from a senior person, that culture of disrespect might steepen. Very, 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 someone may not be respectful, of that. And I'm just thinking of an example, a present day example. Just because I like to be practical when I give these classes, because I know things are so relevant for all of us in terms of our daily lives. So recently we had a disciples meeting, and for His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. And I was very enthusiastic and very excited to introduce a sannyasi. The sannyasi is junior to me in terms of how long that person was initiated, and even how maybe that person's age. However, that person is very knowledgeable. And so for me, that person is very senior, because they're knowledgeable and very enthusiastic and eager to carry on the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So for me, that person is senior. And that's the culture. That's the culture. So that person is to be given respect. However, as I introduced that person. I wanted to introduce that person. And when I introduced that person, it was very interesting for me because I had to reflect on this later. I was so enthusiastic to introduce him, and I said something that was so disrespectful. I said, I'm very happy to introduce you, Maharaj, and I'm excited that you've come to our meeting, because this was not a disciple of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. And I said, because I'm not so excited about so many sannyasis these days, something to that effect. I'm not so excited about sannyasis. And as I thought about that after, I thought, why did you say that, VrajaLila? That's just not very respectful. Why? On one hand, you're respecting this person, you've accepted this person, but then you're just totally like disregarding the ashram, and he's a part of that ashram. So it's just so contradictory. And so what motivated you to do that? And I had to really explore within myself, because it was disrespectful. It was offensive, because to another sannyasi, they probably thought, what is she saying? She don't respect sannyasis, or what? I mean, it didn't align. It didn't align that I'm respecting the sannyasi. He's senior, but then I'm senior because knowledge, but then I'm not respecting sannyasis because, there's so many different things that's happened in sannyasis, right? So that's something I had to go internally to try to understand within myself. So this is an example of a junior. A junior is somebody that we offer affection and care to those persons, irregardless of what may be going on in our conditioned minds, irregardless of our own, personal issues that we may be having. In this case, for me, it was probably it was some personal issues, I'm sure, why I made that statement. And so I had to really address that. And then I realized I needed to apologize for making that statement, because it was just not a very healthy statement. And it was not really coming from a place of really being respectful to everyone that's in that ashram, even, like I said, irregardless of what my idiosyncrasies may be about that ashram. And then as far as peers, those persons that are peers to us, like Vraja is my peer, right? I know him from many, many, many years ago, Vraja Prabhu. There are many of you on here that are my peers. So how do we offer our respects to those persons? Well, we offer our friendship. And even as we try to do that in conditioned life, it's important to remember that verse. This material energy of mine is very difficult to overcome, because friendship in the age of Kali Yuga, in these times that we're living in, these troubled times, it's not so easy for us to build friendship. And so this is why Rupa Goswami's loving exchanges are so very important, because that's like our guidebook, our guideline to help us to understand more about how we can have consistency in our friendships. Because of course, this material energy is so difficult. We get somehow distracted by Krishna's external energy in so many different ways, even as we try to develop friendship. So the point is, there is these different levels of how we deal with each other. However, as we're attempting or trying to follow these guidelines, we may have so many challenges, and it's just natural, because we're conditioned in this world. We're conditioned. So even though we may hear how we are to interact with each other, it may take us some time to really know, to really understand, and to really get it within our hearts of how to do this. Like I explained, just that simple minute of me speaking out of line was just not nice. And it probably caused some hurt and some pain to some sannyasi that could possibly hear what I said. Like, what is it she's saying? She doesn't care about, how is she caring? What is her affection for sannyasi? So these levels of interacting with each other is really important. So let's go back to the Uttama Adhikari and this very very elevated spiritual personality that would not make those kinds of mistakes, right? They would not speak in a way that was not encouraging and loving and kind. They offer respect to everyone. They offer service by glorifying the Lord. So in the Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto, the second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11-45. Can you pull that up, Saha? Because that has some really important information in how we are to deal with each other. Is that possible? If not, I can just bring out my book. Great. You got it, Saha. Hari Hari. So thank you so much. So this is a beautiful verse to help us to kind of understand, these different levels of devotees. The most advanced devotee sees within everything the soul of all souls, the supreme personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Consequently, he sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and understands that everything that exists is eternally situated within the Lord. So this is Sukadeva Goswami. He's on this absolute level of just, seeing everything in relationship to Krishna. As we remember, he didn't even want to come out of the womb because he told his father, I don't want to deal with material energy. I don't want to have anything to do with material energy, right? So he stayed in his mother's womb for 16 years because and Krishna personally had to come to him in the womb to tell him, no, it's okay. I'll send my external energy away from you. So it's okay. You can come out. So this is the mood of Uttama Adhikari. They have no other desire, nothing, no other motivation other than the motivation to help everyone to come closer to the Lord, to learn about the glories of the Lord. And in that same verse, there's an explanation. You don't have to go back, Saha, because I think I have this one that says, Prabhupada is explaining in the purport, just as a lusty person, a lusty man, because this goes back and forth, right? It doesn't have to be a lusty man, it could be a lusty woman. When they see a sensuous person, when they see somebody that's sensuous to them, everywhere, just as that person will see a sensuous person everywhere, he sees Krishna everywhere. The pure devotee, they see Krishna everywhere. And that's a part of how that's been explained by Hirdananda Maharaj, one of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, in that verse. There's also the behavior of an Uttama Adhikari, a person that's on that transcendental level. They behave in a certain way. And so they offer, the way they behave is they offer respects to all living entities. So just like when Shukadeva Goswami was being honored by these sages, when they were bowing down to the sages, he was just very humbly just, waiting to just share what he came to share, what they wanted him to share. And he was accepting that respect, but he wasn't expecting it for him. It wasn't that he was thinking, oh, I'm so great, they're just glorifying me, I'm so wonderful, I'm sitting on this Vyasa-san and everybody thinks I'm so beautiful and I'm so great. No, he wasn't thinking like that. He was just thinking, Krishna is in the heart of everyone. Parikshit Maharaj is here. Somehow I am to speak, and I'm just very humbly, being sent by my Lord in order to share this knowledge, because as we know, as the Prabhu talked yesterday, that he was definitely empowered by the Supreme Lord to come and share Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was completely just following through on that instruction to please the Lord. So these Uttama Adhikaris, their behavior is a certain way. It's just focused on the Lord. They also have desires, and their desires, and Saha, I think, maybe not, okay. Their desires is they're absolutely overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed by the desire to see the Lord and serve the Lord's associates. We have examples of that, like Srila Prabhupada, right? Prabhupada suffered so many heart attacks in order to come here, because all he could see was that he was following his authority of his spiritual master, wanting to please his spiritual master, understanding there were living entities that needed to hear the glories of the Lord. And so totally his desire was simply to please the Lord. So this is some of we can find some of this understanding in the Nectar of Devotion, how these pure devotees, their desire is to always think of the Lord, always expand the consciousness, this Krishna consciousness movement. That's their only intention. And they also have qualities. So these are some of the areas that we need to look at when we look at each other. There's certain qualities that these pure devotees have. And so I'm just naming a few of these. This is also in that purport of the 11th canto. They're free from that tendency to control anything. They don't have any of those kinds of, desires to control and manipulate material world, because they know it's Krishna's external energy. They're fully aware that that's Krishna's external energy is designed in order to help people to eventually come to that place where they can think about God. They fully understand that. So they don't have any desire desire to deal with material, to manipulate material energy in any way. And they are inspired they're empowered to inspire and elevate devotees on all levels, right? And you can see that when these pure devotees, you see Sukadeva Goswami, he's like there, and he's going to speak to these sages. These sages are not ordinary personalities, but yet he has this amazing quality that he just come into this assembly and is going to sit there and speak and share. They understand the goal of life as one of their qualities, and they're very expert in studying the scriptures and actually sharing from the scriptures. different arguments that are there, especially when we read like the Chaitanya Charitamrita, to be able to explain, all the pastimes of the Lord in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that requires a certain kind of empowerment, certain quality that might be there. And then maybe one last one is they understand the goal of life. Absolutely. They know that the only reason I'm here is to help others and to help others to try to bring them back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's my only purpose, my only goal. And so that's the ultimate of how to give respect, to those persons. Why? Because their purpose is totally only to assist others to come back to the Lord. And so we respect them for that reason, whether they're in a 10-year-old body, a 5-year-old body. Prahlad Maharaj, he was 7, however old they may be. We give those persons respect. And then, of course, we know, and I'm talking to the choir here, but however, this is for my own purification, because I know that all of you are aware of this, the Madhyam Adhikari, right? So Prabhupada, he says, all of us need to come to the Madhyam platform. We need to move out of the Kanishta platform and come to the Madhyam platform. So the Madhyam platform is an intermediate or a second-class devotee. That's why they're called Madhyam. And they offer their love to Krishna. They are very sincere. They're a sincere friend to all devotees of the Lord. So they have this quality that they can be friends to everyone. Now, Prabhupada is asking us to come to that level where we can be friends to everyone. Now, if I'm honest with myself, I know that I'm not friends with everyone. So am I really on that level of being a Madhyam, right? So I need to look at that internally with myself. They show mercy to ignorant people. Okay, so I could say, I try to do some things, right? I try to do some things. Varaha I see Varaha on my screen, so that's why I'm calling on him a lot. Varaha is doing Food for Life. He's definitely trying to give people an opportunity, to elevate in consciousness. So there are many devotees that do that. And they're not envious. They're not envious of the personality of Godhead, which means if we're not envious of Krishna, then we won't be envious of other devotees. You see, because it starts from us being envious of Krishna. That's where the envy starts. And so this person, the Madhyam Adhikari, they also have vision, and their vision is to give Krishna consciousness, especially in their different position, right? If somebody is a king, or if somebody is in these different situations that we have now, different ashrams, different varnas, people are wanting to understand. And so they're making themselves available to give Krishna consciousness to others. And then in the teachings of Lord Kapila, I was looking at this, that they're able to discern between the devotees and the non-devotees. They know who is like conditioned in such a way that they're not ready to hear anything about the Lord. And they know those persons that are ready, they make themselves available for that. They also have desires. What are their desires? They simply want to develop love for Krishna. And we can find that again in that canto. Also, their behavior is a certain way. They behave in a certain way. And Krishna tells Arjuna that when Arjuna asks, right, how do we discern? How do we know? And Krishna tells Arjuna, they talk a certain way, they walk a certain way, they look a certain way, they act a certain way. So the Madhyam, yes, they behave in a certain way. And so it's important for us to see that behavior. And they also have qualities. They're faithful, staunchly faithful, and they don't become envious of other people. So these are qualities of Madhyam. And as we look at these different qualities of these devotees, we can tell within ourselves, where we are in terms of how we understand junior, senior, peers in consciousness. We can tell, because we can be, we can understand from the scriptures what are the qualities that I have in being honest with myself. And then, of course, the last one is the Kanishta, right? And so most people on the planet are Kanishta Adhikaris, whether they're practicing bhakti or not. Most people are Kanishta. Some in the process of bhakti, but others in different paths. And those persons are unsteady. They're not very steady in their Krishna consciousness. There's so many examples of that. They're critical. They see only the Lord, that's, everything is just about the deities and not so much about respecting, other people or even other living entities. They also have vision. That vision is to become have material expertise. And they also have desires. Sometimes we see that they're in distress, they're in need of money, they're inquisitive. These are the 4 types of people that have these different kinds of desires. And we can understand that even in the scriptures, there are personalities that can help us to explore more about having these different kinds of desires. For example, if we look at the life of Gajendra, the elephant, he was in distress, right? And so, of course, he had a certain kind of a desire. However, because he was able to call on the Supreme Lord, then he was given liberation from having that ability to call on the Lord, or that previous connection with the Lord. We also know that Dhruva Maharaj, he was looking for wealth. He had that desire. But then again, by the mercy of his mother and by the mercy of Narada Muni and his determination, he was able to actually see the Lord and change that desire. The sages in Namasharanya, they were inquisitive. They wanted to learn. And so Krishna sent Shukadeva Goswami to fulfill that desire, to be inquisitive, to get knowledge, to understand. And then, of course, the 4 Kumaras, they're looking for wisdom, they're wise. So all of these different desires are there within the Kanishta also. And they have certain kind of behavior. They just don't properly distinguish between the devotees and the non-devotees. And they never, they don't like to really, they're surrendered to a certain degree. It's like there's still I in there. I, me, mine. There's so much of the I, me, mine that might still be there. So anyway, there's qualities that they have. These are some of the different aspects of devotees. And what's important in understanding and having some bit of understanding, as I said, this is for my purification. My purification is to be able to react to apologies, Prabhu. Okay. Yeah. The reason we want to understand about the qualities of a person, we want to understand their behavior, because somebody can be senior and their behavior can really not align with being a senior, and somebody can be very junior and their behavior, their qualities, their desires, everything is aligned with wanting to being honest to give Krishna consciousness. So all of these aspects are important in terms of us understanding this culture of respect. It's not just black and white, I just respect you because, you are, senior in whatever, in your ashram, or senior in your varna, or senior in your age. This is not the purpose. This is not how Krishna set up the system. Krishna himself showed respect to Queen Kunti, to his auntie. He circumambulated Kunti 3 times, and then Kunti offered prayers and said, it's like the prayer that she offered was like, you're like a joker, you're like joking, you're like, what are you doing? He's like showing that kind of respect. So yes, not just by age. Yes, not just by age. However, not just by age, not just by ashram, not just by varna, not just by spiritual knowledge, because somebody by age can actually have a lot of spiritual knowledge. It does not mean that their behavior, their qualities, their desires are aligned with their knowledge. And so so to explore and to understand, you know, what it means to be a devotee, what it means to honor, to understand Shukadeva Goswami, the foundation for us is to really respect all devotees, and to respect not just the devotees, but to respect everyone. If we start living that culture of respect, we start understanding that even if someone is only in a minuscule way, let's say having good behavior, or let's say having good qualities, or let's say having, when I say good, I mean God conscious qualities, God conscious desires, God conscious, their desires are God conscious. Even in a minuscule way, if we see that, how do we honor and respect those persons? And really, this comes from another, which I will do in another class. This comes from us also understanding the culture of appreciation. Without the culture of appreciation, it's very difficult to be respectful. And so that was one of the lessons that I learned for myself. This past week, I always look at my week and see, where did I mess up? What did I do? My spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he gives us this most amazing book, and it's called False Ego. I read this book every day because I know that this is for my benefit, as well as I'm sure for many others. It's called False Ego, the greatest enemy of the spiritual leader. And this book helps us to understand, you know, in what ways are we not understanding the things that we might be reading, or in what ways are we not practicing the things that we might be reading. So for me, I thought I had full knowledge to be respectful to sannyasis, but somehow, I made that statement that was just not appropriate, was not proper, you know? And so then I went back to False Ego, to read, to remind myself what my spiritual master has taught us, that it's the false ego act in insidious ways, when we're not even conscious, because the false ego is just, you know, so huge that oftentimes we do and say things that is totally directed by the false ego, and we're not even aware. So Shukadeva Goswami, pure devotee of the Lord, he's not affected by false ego, not affected. However, if we're a Kanishta devotee, or if we're even maybe aspiring to be a Madhyam, actually Madhyam are not so affected. But sometimes Prabhupada explains a person can actually fall down from their position. And that's a whole different class. So it's Krishna consciousness is not just simple. It's not simple. It's simple for the simple. If we're simple, it's simple. But if we're not so simple, then it really does take, as Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj says, it takes, and Srimad Varaha said that, a surrender to remember that it is only the mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna that we can in any way practice this process of bhakti. Totally the mercy of the spiritual master. So I'm grateful to my spiritual master. I'm grateful to all those sannyasis that have taken on the service to share with the world, to give themselves to the world. That's a big responsibility. I'm very grateful to all of them. And most importantly, to Srila Prabhupada, who's making all this possible, and ultimately to the Supreme Lord, our ultimate authority. Thank you, my dear friends. Thank you very much. And now I'm ready for the hot seat.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Mother VrajaLila. Oh, that was so beautiful. It's amazing how you've been able to speak the way you did from 5 lines of Srila Prabhupada's purport. It's just been like 3 sentences, but it's been so beautiful and very, very appropriate to the text and the purport. So dear devotees, if anyone has a question, comment, realization, you may indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to speak. See, Mother, luckily for me, I was with you in the Sangha when you did introduce this Maharaj. And I'm quite surprised the way you're speaking about it today, because if I were to introduce him, I probably would have said the same things you said, but I did not understand it the way you're saying it today, because what I heard from you was that you admire him, which is an extension or a symptom of respect. You admire him so much because he is just like your guru, our Guru Dev. You know, our Guru Dev was so dynamic in such a way that he would take the pure spiritual teachings and make it accessible to the ordinary people. And you were appreciating him in that light because he is also like that. He is also able to preach these transcendental teachings in such a simplistic way without diluting the depth of the teachings. So that's how I don't think you need to kill yourself over this.
Well, I was appreciating him for sure, no doubt.
Yeah.
However, which is something that conditioned souls do, we compare, right? We compare. So I was appreciating him for all his amazing qualities, his behavior, his desires. Yes, I was appreciating him. At the same time, I was comparing him to other sannyasis that I don't appreciate, which is kind of, that's not the mood of a madhyam. A madhyam appreciates everyone, right? That's the mood of a madhyam. A madhyam is always kind of sensitive. So my lack of sensitivity, that another sannyasi could have heard that class and say, wow, she's really appreciating him. But then she's like minimizing the sannyas ashram, because actually that's what I was doing in one sense, like saying indirectly, I was saying, well, I'm not so, I was personally saying, I don't have so much, I don't think I said that word exactly, respect, but I said, yeah, the sannyas ashram is kind of questioned, something like that. But this Prabhu was a sannyasi, and I was appreciating her as a sannyasi. So I just put myself in the shoe of another sannyasi that could have been there and heard that statement and thought, that's not very sensitive or kind, to the sannyas ashram as a whole. But thank you for encouraging me, Saha. I really appreciate it.
Well,
I had to pray to my Guru Maharaj, please go to the heart of any sannyasi that I might have offended.
Well, I've learned from you today, so that when I have to speak, I will be very attentive what to say and how to say it. Mitravinda Devi, please unmute.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for being here today, VrajaLila Devi, to speak to us on these really.
You're breaking up.
And
okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for helping us understand these aspects of community, connection, and philosophy. My question relates to the instances where I would say either through one's own personal experiences, personality, etc., and learning and hearing these aspects of Shastra that equate to us sharing and teaching things that are not equatable to what what it is from what the actual understandings are. So linear, it moves. What we read right here, all we have to do is continue to move, continue to read and study. It's going to change or shift to another perspective or focus. It's not just this, it's this, and this. Would you say that, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Would
I'm
you
here.
say, so what I'm getting at and trying to put it in a nutshell is when there are misconceptions or errors in teaching, whether one is in a position of leading and helping to guide others, and we teach that someone is their title. What you said today, shares and reflects differently on a lot of experiences and understandings that people have in the philosophy currently and from the past. But we're not our titles, we're not our bodies, we're not our this or that. So moving beyond titles as a designation, moving beyond material energies as a designation, how can we do better in understanding that and making sure that, you're doing it by speaking this way, but how can we correct it so that people are not learning incorrectly and then carrying that on?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Mitra. Again, from what I learned from my spiritual master, our spiritual master, His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami, our revered Guru Maharaj, it starts from within, it starts inside. And until I believe we start becoming conscious, we cannot be Krishna conscious. And I was, like I said, that story I shared, I was really grateful that I was conscious enough to realize that that's just not the way to be if I'm wanting to be a devotee. So yeah, I agree. People have the tendency to think that they're their positions, their roles. However, as we know, that's also part of the false ego. And many devotees might not yet be, and I include myself in that, at times for sure. I might not be aware of how the false ego has imprisoned my consciousness. I may not be aware. And so that comes from constantly hearing, from constantly chanting, from getting feedback from other devotees. I'm very fortunate. I'm grateful to all of the devotees that always let me know you did something, you said something, whatever. It's not always easy to hear.
Hare Krishna.
I think she's paused.
Yeah, she is. I think it's
I
connection.
don't know. I don't know if mine is going to. I don't know if mine is going to pause or not. But I wanted to say, how can we help stop this thing in this Bhakti society? How can we help stop it for those who are in positions of power? So that this communication, this platform of Hare Krishna Africa is essential and integral. I feel personally. And helping it get through in a way that doesn't relate to more stress, more anxiety, which is sometimes, deeply rooted in places where it shouldn't be. But how can we share and make sure that people in temples who think that they are the positions that we're given understand that it's more about how we're connecting spirit to spirit? Just in case in case VrajaLila DD comes back on.
Yeah, we hope so. Yeah.
I hope she comes back on.
Yeah, we're hoping.
So did you make note of that? Because I may not be able to speak when she does, if she does come back on.
I did, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So dear devotees, okay, she's back. Father Raj.
Yay, thank you.
I'm not sure if you heard what Madame Travinda was saying.
No, I didn't. Not the end, no.
Okay, so she was saying in regards to the question you were answering that her concern is how are we going to try our possible best in such a way that we do not have such situations in ESCOM? In other words, where we do not have leaders who do whatever they want to do because simply they are the leaders. How are we going to help the leaders not to be acting in that way? So that was the extended question she asked.
So, yeah, thank you. So I can only say, I take my personal responsibility, my own personal responsibility in healing that paradigm of having leaders that may not be understanding what it means to be a leader. I speak on that theme a lot from a place of love and care. So I do many Zoom presentations. I kind of speak in a way to be honest, to take responsibility, to be in integrity. So that's how I personally can try to make a difference, is to speak more about the areas where I might not be honest, where I might not have integrity, and be vulnerable to share that, because I think that's the greatest challenge for a leader, is to not really be honest with themselves. So I am understanding that, and that's what I learned from my spiritual master, is it starts with me, and that's what I do. Now, how that impacts the society, what I can see is I'm not the only one doing that. There are many others that are doing that, especially now. More and more devotees are speaking out about, leaders that might not act in integrity. And I do know that Krishna, as the ultimate authority, that he will intervene. Krishna, I fully trust and know that the Lord intervened when the world is, he intervenes by just coming, right? When there was so much craziness on the planet, he came personally. So Krishna is always there. Krishna is there, and we must not forget that. And yes, everyone needs to do their little part. So my little part is just to speak out more about the importance of honesty and integrity, responsibility, being vulnerable, and knowing that sometimes people won't like me, and it's okay if I'm speaking truth. That's just how it's set up. So yeah, but at the same time, there's a sadness that as practitioners, we may still be at the level of consciousness that some of us are. And that's very unfortunate. It is unfortunate. So I totally empathize, that anyone that has crossed the path of being in an environment where a leader is not authentic, not acting in integrity, I absolutely empathize with such persons. However, I say, just persevere, don't give up. Krishna is in charge, ultimately. And let's keep speaking about it, let's keep talking about it. I think that's the best I can offer.
Well, thank you so much, Mother Hare Krishna. Thank you for the answer. Anyone with any question or comment? Mother, I have a question, but it will come as a matter of realization. I would like to share my realization and ask a question from my realization. And my realization is that you were talking about, of course, you were not saying that. Sri Prabhupada said that in the purport, that Shukadev Goswami was highly respected because of his achievement. He was simply 16 years old, but all the sages assembled, they respected him because of his achievement. That is his knowledge. And I realized that in today's world, in the olden days, I should say in the olden days, people used to respect people because when you need to find out something, if you need knowledge, you will go to a person and ask the person of what you are not sure of. And when the person imparts that knowledge to you, you naturally respect the person. But in today's world, we have Google, we have Siri, we have Alexa. And this, I'm reminded of one lady who was having a dispute with the son. And she told the son, hey, you have to give me some respect because when I took my exam in school, there was no Google. You know. So these days, people go on Google and then type in their questions, and Google answers them. People ask questions to Alexa, and Alexa answers them. People talk to Siri, and Siri answers them. And therefore, people do not find any need of going to a person to ask him of their questions. So what do we do in this phase of this technological age where you can find out information from not a person, but at the same time respect people? You know, because I may ask a question to you and you may answer me, but I could as well get the same answer by asking Google. But there is the need for me to respect a person. And how do we do that in this phase of our world? That is just my question. Hare Krishna. And then we'll go to Shriman Varaha Prabhu.
Thank you, Saha Prabhu. You always have these amazing questions. Yeah, I hear the foundation of your question is based on personalism, and that's bhakti, right? How we can be personal amidst all the technology that's there. So some of the thoughts I had was Prabhupada, he used technology. At that time, it wasn't nothing like it is today, but he did use it in order to do what he did. You know, even a typewriter at that time was something that was kind of, when he came from India, you know, he didn't have so much access to things like that. So some of the things he used, a dictaphone, whatever. So yeah, technology definitely is creating separation from that personalism. There's no doubt about it. And we, especially now more, well, I was reading an article recently about AI, artificial intelligence, and they're creating artificial intelligence to do even more than Sri Google. So yes, this place, you know, but then that's the whole part. That's what it is in this mature world, right? Remember, I shared that the other day. Padam padam yavi padam nate sham. It's danger at every step. So the AI, they're coming in, and that's danger. It's dangerous. It's dangerous, and that's why the devotees, it's so important that we respect and appreciate and care for each other. Even if it's like in your family, you have a whole little dynasty in your family, right? So to have that in your home is just so precious, that you can have your children and train them and have that kind of, you know, personalism with bhakti with them. It's just such a beautiful thing. And to be honest, in Kali Yuga, it's going to get more and more difficult, as you're pointing out. It is going to get more and more difficult. I mean, the pandemic also really kind of was designed to start this in motion too, to make it more in motion, you know, to take away personalism, to take away our interacting with each other. However, at the same time, you know, let's try to use technology as best as we can. Right now, we wouldn't be having this class, right? I would, if I wasn't, because I'm not physically able to be with you, if we didn't have Zoom, I wouldn't be able to connect with all the beautiful devotees that's on this class. Yeah. So if we have that vision, if we can start if we can try to develop that vision, and that includes me, to see everything as coming from Krishna, then we won't be disturbed. We won't be disturbed. So, because the disturbance only comes from thinking that the material energy is what it is, all it is, and it's not. It's not. It is difficult, but Krishna is all powerful.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Shrimavara Prabhu, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Jack, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
My obeisances, all devotees. Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for wonderful class. So I have maybe one comment. V2. First is that I want to say something about your self-analysis and what you did in the class. I mean that devotees meeting. I thank you for sharing that with us, and I also want to say that when you are being frank and when you are yourself, when you act as you are, even though it may not go well with everybody, but in my opinion, I think there should be no apology for that, or self-recrimination. You're just being frank. You've just spoken your mind. And that helps to remind people that they also need to be genuine. So I think when you're being yourself and you're being frank, let it fall as it may, so that it doesn't look like it was intended to offend. It wasn't intended to offend. You're just being frank, and that frankness is needed sometimes to make people to sit straight and to know that everything is not accepted to everybody. That's my first comment, but I thank you for sharing that with us. Now, the second thing is you, in your last statement, you responded to the question Alanath Prabhu asked us. I didn't answer that question because I thought he was the one giving class and he should be given all the dues for the one, let him express himself on the subject. So, but you kind of answered that question. The question was, what is our own response to leadership abuse? How can we prevent that? After he had commented on VrajaLila's question, then he threw that question back to us, and nobody said anything. But you've just answered that. Some of the things in my mind also, but I love your aspect of saying that Krishna is ultimately in charge, and then whoever is under that kind of situation should only persevere. Perseverance is needed. So thank you for that. But what was going on in my mind, and of course, because same topic is being addressed today partially, so I just want to bring that up now. If I had spoken yesterday, but I just cautioned myself not to say anything. But now from the class you've given and your response, I'm being encouraged to say something on that. I believe that when there's loving dealings, and there's true loving dealings among devotees, then we can tolerate anything and then we can persevere. Because we'll see the person as our well-wisher if there is proper loving dealings. But when there's no proper loving dealings, then we of course want to avoid being, not just only being abused, but we want to avoid becoming slaves to those who have the mentality of slave masters. Because religion has become a tool of enslaving people. So even though we want to be perseverant, even though we want to be humble and all that stuff, but we're also conscious of history. And history played a major role in educating us on what to accept and what not to accept. So what religion is saying and what scriptures is saying about what our mood should be, in submission and all that, that is fine. But we also have to remember history. If there's no loving dealings and you have to persevere and tolerate and become a victim, that is your fault. So I'm just trying to add this, that if there is loving dealings, then people will submit themselves so much. I mean, like gone are those days, devotees were going out on Sankirtan and they will stay all night just to collect to please the guru. Nowadays, you don't see that much of mood any longer, anyone wanting to go, because the loving dealings and that spirit of surrender and submission is gone, because there's less and less loving dealings. You are not feeling that this person actually is your well-wisher. But what we did in the past, or what devotees did in the past, people could say that they were being, like exploited, whatever, but they did it out of love. They did it out of reciprocation for the love they were getting from the guru and the leaders. So this is just what I want to add as contribution, that if there is love in dealings, people can go to any extent, any length to submit and surrender themselves. And even when things seem to be going against your grain, you still accept it because you feel like the person is your well-wisher. It's your, he has your intention, your good intention in mind, and you can feel it. So thank you for the opportunity to say something. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. It's, I always share about the mood of His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami, our revered spiritual master, because we experienced that love from him. I mean, it's only his love that I think inspired myself to go to Africa, in 1980, as a new devotee. It was his love, it was just his care. And just because he wanted so much to please his spiritual master, I remember thinking, and I've shared this many times, the reason that I'm still trying to serve my spiritual master is because the love I saw that he had for Srila Prabhupada, the commitment he had to Srila Prabhupada, the behavior he had in order to please Srila Prabhupada, the desires he had to please Srila Prabhupada. Everything that I saw, I thought, how is that possible? I want to learn that. And I was really sincere at that time, trying to understand it from a very conditioned platform, very conditioned place. Like, is this real? How is this possible to just love someone that you just, all your qualities, all your behavior, all your desires, everything is just because of this person? I wanted that. I still do want that. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
Thank you so much, Mother Raj, and thank you so much for sharing that, Srimad Vera Prabhu. Anyone else with any question or comment? Chakra Prabhu, please unmute.
Hold on. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Hare Chakra Prabhu.
Dandava Pranam. All glories to you, Mother VrajaLila. All glories to Guru Maharaj, and all glories to Prabhupada. And all glories to the assembled devotees. Thank you for your class. As usual, you do your best to give us as practical as possible how we can deliberate and apply this transcendental knowledge in our daily life. During your submission, you mentioned a few other things when you were talking about the different classes of devotees, Kanista, Madhyama, and Uttama levels, and talking also about the question of who is junior and who is senior. Yeah, these things, devotees, over the years, I've realized that devotees, we talk about it a lot. And personally, what I'm realizing is that
You're muted.
You are muted, we cannot hear you. You are muted. Unmute, please. Harichakra Prabhu, you are muted.
Hare Krishna. I think if somebody can go.
Okay. Well, Hare Krishna, before Harichakra Prabhu comes back, Mother, it is said that it's I wouldn't say it's not possible, but it's very difficult to train an old dog new tricks. And I'm just realizing that I'm an old dog. And I know we've been advised or encouraged, or it's been recommended that, like, when we go to the temple room and the altar is open and we're seeing the deities, we have to start seeing the deities from the lotus feet up, just as it's described here in the purport. And Srila Prabhupada was saying that is the process you find in every civilized world. And I didn't even know that. Now, when I see somebody, the first place my eyes immediately goes to is the face. Now I'm looking at the face of the person. I don't start from the feet. Now, how do we, who are so-called like old dogs, learn this
Hare
science?
Krishna.
Okay, Harichakra is back. All right.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, continue.
Yeah, you're
Um,
working.
Yeah, so can I continue with my question?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Hold on. This thing is technology and its implications.
We can hear you though.
Okay. Now can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so the question I was asking is that these days I realize that devotees we talk so much about, and so most of the time, doesn't it seem like devotees we tend to rely, oh, I'm senior to such and such a person, and so at least that person should respect me, or sometimes some of us we are thinking, oh, maybe I'm Madhyama, even though I'm not Uttama, but maybe I'm Madhyama. Definitely I'm not Kanista. That's that mindset. That mindset, is it not hindering our progress? And is it not causing a lot of problem? I mean, is it not one of the root cause of the basic problem that we see among ourselves? Thinking always that someone is, oh, maybe he or she is a Kanista, and I think so far, I think with all these years, and I think at least I'm Madhyam, and so I want you to throw a little bit light on this thing, because personally, I feel that thing that maybe we are always thinking that, oh, I'm senior to this person, that person is my junior, at least I deserve some respect, and so certain. So are you getting the point I'm trying to make?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So can you throw a little bit light on this?
Yeah, thank you, Hari Chakra Prabhu, and thank you for asking question, even though I know you're working. It's amazing to me. I think Krishna is gonna take you guys back to Godhead just by, the absorption that you have. You, Govinda, Varaha, Saha, all of everyone actually working and still trying to hear glorification of the Lord. Thank you so much. All the devotees, everybody has so many different things they're engaged in. Yeah, so yes, our socialization from the material world definitely has an impact on our consciousness. And also when we come into the arena of devotional life, if we are not able to hear the scriptures from a bona fide authority, someone bona fide means someone that is really sharing what Srila Prabhupada's intentions were when he wrote the scriptures, how he wrote the scriptures. If it's not coming from that foundation of love and care for each other, then certainly things can, yeah, we can get all different types of different, perspectives about any verse in our scripture, any verse. Usually people, depending on their level of consciousness, they do have different perceptions about how, the verses in our scriptures, yes. So again, I would say you're absolutely right in that we are often forgetting Lord Chaitanya's prayer, Chinata Pisuni Chena, Tarora Pisa Hushana, Manina, Manadena, Kirtanina, Sarahari. I remember in the temples early, even when we started the temples in Africa, we used to recite those prayers every single day of Lord Chaitanya. And those prayers, after a certain time, you hear them so often, that they start kind of like they start to get embedded in our hearts. And even though we may not actually know the purport of that verse, we start at least getting some intellectual understanding. And after some time, I believe the spiritual master interacts with us in our heart and help us to have realizations. So yes, absolutely. This is one of the tricks of Krishna's external energy, to creep into the spiritual sangha and to let us not, acknowledge these simple truths of Trinata Sunechena, this simple understanding what it means to be a devotee. And so therefore, for me, when somebody is saying that they're advanced, or, they're thinking that, they have a role and they should be respected, I ask the question, what is your vision? What is your behavior? What are your qualities? And what are your desires? Because that's Sastri. And if those are aligned with what a Kanishta is, a Madhyam is, a Uttama, if I see what alignment, then I can decide myself, oh, yeah, this person has some Kanishta behavior. Or they may have a mixture, Kanishta and some Madhyam. They're trying to be a Madhyam, but yet they get, somehow, they get kind of tricked, or they, the consciousness gets a little warped because maybe they get involved in something that's keeping them stagnated from not fully becoming a Madhyam. And certainly we can know what's a Uttama. We have many examples. So for me, it's kind of like being aligned with myself and Sastra to be able to understand people's behaviors, to understand on what platform they may be acting. So I do agree with you that for most of us, which is why Bhakti Tirtha wrote that book about the false ego, because for most, and I should say for me, not most of us, for me, I have to be very, very vigilant with my false ego, because that's my socialization, is to fall back on my false ego. And only Guru can help me. Only Guru can help me. And of course, the association of the devotees can remind me. And we got to have devotees that can give us feedback and let us know, hey, look, you're stepping a little bit away here. We got to have that. We got to get feedback, even if it's painful. We got to have feedback, because on our own, we can't do it, because we're socialized by false ego. That's our situation in this material world. Unfortunate situation. But there's
thank you.
hope, there's hope. And the thing is, I'm sorry, Harchakma Prabhu, our spiritual master loved us so much, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Not just us, he loved the people on the planet so much. He left 18 books, simple way, simple understanding, 18 books to help us whenever we deviate in any way. And it's expected that we're going to deviate. This is conditioned life. until we get firmly fixed in our foundation. And that does require Shanadapi, really does. Humble and brave, humble and brave. To be like Sahadev said, he mentioned about Sukadev Goswami, how I think the word that you used from the verse was, what was that word you used, Saha?
Achievement.
Yeah, achievement. So we are conditioned to thinking our achievement has something to do with our conditional life, and it doesn't. Shukadev's achievement was that he heard Srimad Bhagavatam. He didn't want to come out of the womb to be involved in Maya, because his only purpose was to share Srimad Bhagavatam. That was his achievement. So what's our achievement? That's what I'm always asking myself.
Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
thank you, Mother VrajaLila. Thank you very much for the answer. And yeah, because it makes me reflect, like even in our in regular life, in ordinary regular life, like if somebody is real lady or a real gentleman, we see that they don't go around telling people that I'm a lady or I'm a gentleman. It's people outside who see their behavior and they give the name to them. Oh, this is a real gentleman, or that is a real lady, based on the behavior of the person. But yeah, so thank you very much. As you said that you personally, you look at the scripture and see the qualities. If the person is emanating that qualities, then you might you associate that particular level to the person. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So is Govinda Prabhu, please? You may unmute.
Hare Krishna, devotees, please accept my respectful obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mother VrajaLila, my obeisances to you, and Prabhu Kivira. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for the class, and I also thank the questionnaires and the answers coming. It's very encouraging and it's very, very reflective to me. What I'm hearing and my understanding, what I'm realizing from this understanding is that goes all the way from the foundation of our philosophy, that we came to know that we are not these bodies, we are spirit souls. And that is the foundation of our philosophy. All other things are secondary. All other things help us to grow to that understanding of a spirit, but not a body. And so if we understand that we are not the bodies, but we are spirit souls, and that all spirit souls are one, coming from the same source, part and parcel of Krishna, then everybody must be respected. You have to respect everybody, not the person's bodily features or the person's, even though the scripture says that if you want to differentiate the advancement of knowledge, then we can go to all that level. There are kamis, those who don't practice Krishna consciousness, but their depth of knowledge to materialism and other matters are so deep. And to their level, we say they are very much advanced, but that is not advancement. But according to Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that the seers of the truth, they don't see any difference between a human, a tree, a cow, dog, even an ant. They see the spirit soul in all these bodies. And as a result of that understanding, he gives respect to everybody, to everyone. And so, if you always go back and to understand that we are not the bodies, but we are spirit souls, then we can give respect to everyone, whether the person has knowledge or has no knowledge, the person is a devotee or is not a devotee. Krishna is seated in that person's heart. I remember once myself and Vasudev Maharaj, we went to greet Srila Radhanath Maharaj. And when we went to his ashram, we offered obeisances to him. And he offers back obeisances to us. So I quite remember Maharaj Vasudev said, no, Maharaj, you don't have to do this. You take us to hell. Don't do this, please. So Srila Radha Maharaj, he gave a smile and shook his head. And then he said, I'm not offering obeisances to you. I'm offering obeisances to the Lord in your heart. So he sees Krishna in our heart and is offering obeisances to his Lord. And so I think and I believe that if we go beyond all these materials, all these qualities, and we see Krishna in everyone's heart, it's a super soul in everyone's heart, then we can give that respect. But as soon as we try to make demarcations, we try to make take distinctions, we try to see the levels, we are going to make mistake. As soon as we start doing that, then we actually forgot our own selves, that we are not perfect. And because since we are not perfect, someone may not have all this knowledge, but he is very, very dear to Krishna. That one you cannot see. And so if you are looking at the externals to give respect, we are going to make mistake. And so my question is, how do I practice what I am saying to see everyone on a platform as a spirit, as Krishna come into manifestation in that person's body? Because these are all different temptations, and it's very alluring. We can easily be swayed off. You can easily forget the Krishna aspect, and we look in terms of the person's body, his achievement, what he can do, what he cannot do. Then we will be in that grip. How do we always see constantly Krishna in everyone's heart, so that this respect can be given, not to the body, but to the Lord in the heart?
Wow, Govinda, thank you so very much. Thank you. That was just so eloquent on the theme of an Uttama Adhikari. So yes, you're definitely speaking about the qualities of an Uttama Adhikari. And so we are on this wonderful chapter of studying the life of Shukadeva Goswami and his appearance. And so that's one of the tools that's going to help us to develop more of this consciousness of being an Uttama Adhikari, where we can see Krishna everywhere, in everything, in everyone, because that is the actual purport of where we need the consciousness we all must have, especially if we want to have a relationship with the Lord. Yes, that's ultimately what it means, that we would be in that consciousness of always thinking of thinking of Krishna and seeing everyone in Krishna. However, my dear God brother, however, and I think I've mentioned this terminology before, there is such a, because I'm kind of very concerned about the practicalities of applying our philosophy. So there is I'm thinking of a word to use. There is a way of how we can be in practicing Krishna consciousness that is called spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing, I'm sure you've heard the terminology before. It means that we think that we are uttamas before we even explore what's a madhyam, or we even begin to understand that we might be acting on the platform of Kanishta. So yes, we always want to keep that understanding that you just gave about the absolute consciousness we must have to be in a relationship with the Lord. However, it is practice. What is Arjuna asked Krishna that question? He says, this process of becoming pure is so difficult. And I'm just paraphrasing. And he's asking Krishna, what does it take? What does it take? This is the same question you're asking. What does it take? And Krishna tells Arjuna, it takes practice. It takes practice, Arjuna. And he explains in the Bhagavad Gita that it's not just like one, it's thousands of lifetimes, right? Not one out of thousands come to me, one out of thousands. So we have been very, very, very fortunate to get our passport stamped to go to the spiritual world. Very fortunate, by Srila Prabhupada, by our revered spiritual masters. At the same time, there is a practice, and each person has to, walk that road, walk that path of the practice. And for me, what I see is walking that path means, as you're saying, Govinda, is constantly asking myself, constantly checking in with myself, to the areas where I see that maybe I may be stopped in the path, I may be confused on the path, I may be criticizing on the path, I may be, fallen on the path, to be aware of that and to beg for the mercy, because that's the only way I see in this conditioned state of being in Kali Yuga, in terms of me understanding. And even if I was to say, right, which I would never say, because I've never heard pure devotees say this anywhere, that they're on that platform of being pure. Even Radhanath Maharaj, he always speaks about being the most fallen, because that's just the mood of a pure devotee. They don't ever say, so advanced, right? As you know. But let's just say, I mean, all of us are actually, spiritually connected to Krishna. All of us are actually pure. We're all pure. And we just forgotten that. So, but let's just say I remember that I'm pure, fully remember that I'm pure. Then my service, then my mood will be, how can I assist others? This is why the Uttamas come down sometimes to the Madhyam platform, to help others. Because we're always compassionate. We're always thinking how to serve others, how to help others, and so as we do that more, and you do this all the time, you're such an amazing teacher. I know, preacher, as you're traveling around in your truck, I know that you're giving Krishna consciousness. I know you're compassionate. I know that you're very caring. I know you're an affectionate person. I've experienced that personally. So the idea, though, is to not, even though I understand theoretically the absolute truth, to not think I am there already. Because at least I could say for myself, I'm not. So it's a constant learning on the journey, and practice. That's what Krishna told Arjuna. And that's what I see you doing. You're on this forum every single day, hearing the classes, hearing, chanting. That's how we'll come to that Uttama platform. First, I gotta accept and understand my Kanishta tendencies, and really be and really like face them, and to know what they are. What are my desires in this material world? What are my qualities in this material world? What is my vision in this material world? Because we are living in the material world. And yes, we want to be in the world, but not of the world. But while we're in the world, let's look at it. Let's really look at where we're at. And so that's kind of like a lot of what I try to focus on. So that's kind of, I think that's what I learned from our Guru Maharaj, is to know the end result, know the goal, and at the same time know where I am, accept where I am, and pray for mercy, pray for intervention. I don't know. I hope that's helpful, Govinda.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very, very much. You know, there's a verse in a Gita where Krishna says, "Bahunam Jamanam ante Janavam Mampapadante Vasudeva Sarvam Ete Sarmahatma Sudulaba." So to come to this platform of Krishna consciousness, for one to become a devotee has taken him many, many, many lifetime of practices in different things, and finally the person comes here. So it's very dangerous for us to offend each other. If you don't respect the person, then you're going to disrespect him, and that is the offense. You know, so devotees are just like a live wire. You know, once you touch it, you get electrocuted, and you may die, you may pass away. So you may not know the potency of that person that you are disrespecting. And Krishna does not take it lightly at all to offend his devotees. It takes many, many, many lifetimes, according to Krishna, Bahunam Jamanam Ante. So for one to become a devotee and start, you know, believing that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Krishna says such great souls are rare. So they are very rare. So whether, you know, one is on the first platform or on the lowest platform, I think everyone must be respected, because ordinary people don't come here. Ordinary students don't go to universities. The person being a university means that, you know, he has tried a lot to get to that level. And so for a soul to become a devotee of Lord Krishna, that soul might have struggled very, very hard from previous lifetimes. And finally now he's here. And so I guess the more we become conscious of ourselves, then that will help us be conscious of others also. And when that consciousness is there, our mistakes will be minimized. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Govinda Prabhu. VrajaLila Mataji, please unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo, the
Hare
beautiful and
Krishna.
spiritually intelligent daughter of Govinda Prabhu, VrajaLila DD. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Masterji. Thank you so much for your wonderful class. It has reignited the separation from Bhattacharya Swami, and I'm going to try very hard not to cry. But yes, what you were saying about qualifications of a devotee, it's from my limited knowledge of Maharaj. He related to each and every person on their level, and he did it so expertly in such a way that he did not offend anyone at the same time. For instance, with his godbrothers, he related to them on that friendship level, with disciples on a guidance level, and even like a father figure, you know. So his mood is completely different from other spiritual masters that I may know. Like, he related to his disciples is that I'm your spiritual master, yes, but I'm also your counselor. I'm also your guiding counselor. So that they were comfortable enough to confide in him, and him giving them the shelter, protection that they needed. And even on children basis too, there was this picture I was looking to share, but I can't find it, where he was on a snowboard playing with kids on a snowboard. So with having that much love, developing that love and friendship with him, one can be easily convinced that yes, Krishna is real. If Maharaj is relating to us in this way, then that's Krishna. You know, that brings up that consciousness, that personality, that Krishna is a person. And so when we pray to such a person, when we associate with this person, that we get that taste of Krishna. And so it's just a comment that one can easily mistake someone as being a commoner based on how they're acting, which is how offenses are committed. So for instance, with the examples that I gave with Maharaj, it's very easy to look at him, and also even with his preaching methods, it's different, and it's easy to commit offenses based upon that. But with his character and his love, it's transcendental. So I just wanted to make that comment, that thank you for, you know, reigniting that reminding us of who and how Maharaj is, that on every level he related to us, and so beautifully and expertly without committing offenses. So thank you for that. That's what I wanted to share. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, VrajaLila. Thank you so much. And I wanted to share with you how inspired I am whenever I see a post from you about Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. I always feel so much love and so much genuine connection that you have with him, because I see, you know, you do that very often. You'll post something about him, and it'll be like this sutra, you know, that he's sharing. And I know many people benefit from that. I benefit from that. So never underestimate how you are sharing your love of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj to others, please, because I definitely can feel that affection from you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I just want to add, because a lot of times when we speak, yeah, you know, when we speak about our spiritual master, sometimes, you know, this can trigger some people. And that's to check, you know, our desires, our behaviors, our qualities, is to help us to check that within ourselves. So if we feel like some disturbance when somebody speak about their spiritual master, check why, and check what might be, you know, going on inside, and try to really explore that. So I wanted to add, just in case that we speaking about Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj might trigger anyone, that Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj learned so much of what he gave to us from Srila Prabhupada. So to me, we don't need to say that. However, these times it's important to reference Srila Prabhupada with our spiritual master. So I wanted to thank you.
And thank you so much, for the VrajaLila. Thank you so much for devotees that asked questions and shared comments and realizations. Few things I wanted to say in regards to Govinda Prabhu's sharing. I do not think Srila Prabhupada expected us to become Uttama Adhikaris. And I do not think he designed ISKCON for devotees to act as Uttamas. Because he himself, even though is an Uttama, stepped down to Madhyama. Because Uttama means that you're no more going to be living in society. Well, and that's why Sukadev, when he was speaking, he was naked. Are we going to be able to be naked? His father, Srila Vyasadeva, who trained him. Actually, we just read the previous verse that Shukadev Goswami did not belong to any class. He did not even have a spiritual master. He did not have initiation. Yeah, but because his father, Vyasadeva, taught him, he was already pure devotee, you know. So I think that what we can try to struggle to achieve is to just try to practice what Srila Prabhupada has given us. And what Srila Prabhupada has given us is, if we chant our rounds, we follow the 4 regulative principles, and we love all creatures. That is enough, because that is all we can do as long as we live in this human body. And there was a time that we were having a program for Gurudev Bhaktivedanta Maharaj in DC. And on our way from Gitanagari to DC, it was myself, Bali Maharaj, and one other devotee, I won't mention the name. But this devotee, we were discussing, and this devotee said, she loves everybody equally. I said, no, how can that be possible? It's not possible. Nobody can love everybody equally. And she said, she does. I said, no, it's not. And of course, she's senior to me in all walks of life, in age, in knowledge, and in devotional service, all aspects. But we had this beautiful debate. And I said, well, now we are in this car traveling from here to DC. And what are we going to DC for? We're going to DC to celebrate somebody's birthday. How many of your friends do you travel to their towns to celebrate their holidays? You don't. So even though we have respect for all living entities, but there are different levels of respect. The respect I have for my guru cannot be the same respect I have for my god brother. The love I have for my children cannot be the same as the love I have for others' children. That does not mean that I do not love them, because I do not love them like my children. So I don't think we need to worry ourselves too much, because if we worry ourselves too much of not committing offenses, then it will even be difficult to practice devotional service. Just as Jad Bharat was so concerned that he did not want to kill any living entity, and how was he walking? We cannot live like that. So that is my view of life, trying to live as a devotee. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sahadev. And so much I appreciate if we just stick to chanting the holy names and hearing
Yeah.
every day, then
Yeah.
Krishna does the rest. Krishna does the rest. Do our best.
Exactly.
Krishna does the rest. Guru and Krishna, they'll
Yeah.
help us. Thank you very
Oh.
much.
Thank you. Scarlett Blum, do you have something to share? I was looking up the meaning.
Not this time.
Oh,
I'm so
okay.
sorry. Please forgive
Okay.
me. Not this time. Maybe
Okay,
some
thank you so much.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Well, it's good to hear your voice. Miss
Thank
Blum.
you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Reflect upon the person you love the most and aspire to treat everyone with the same equality of love. Because that is Gurudev's teaching he gave us. Yes. We should try to love each and everyone, like Govinda Prabhu was saying, regardless of their status. But because we live in this world, the word "but" is a very strong word. It will come across all the time. Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, I think we've been here for 2 hours, 20 minutes. And we can't thank you enough for your love, your participation. And Madam VrajaLila in particular, thank you so much for such. Now, when you speak to us, if not all the time, most of the time when you speak to us as somebody sitting in front of you and needing guidelines to overcome a problem. You know, because most of us oftentimes when we speak, we just come, sit here, we read from what the scriptures are saying, and then we repeat it. But we don't oftentimes link it to our day-to-day lives, like Harichakra Prabhu was saying. And you almost always do it so wonderfully, so perfectly. So we can't thank you enough. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Remember, these classes are for my purification. It's for our purification, but mostly it's for my purification. So when I'm giving these classes, I'm like seriously, like looking at myself and thinking, oh my God, you know, how many times have I thought I was senior to somebody else that was so much more elevated? So this is really for me, to help me.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the humility. So devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute, and then we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our deepest appreciation to our revered speaker, Her Grace, Mother VrajaLila DD. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare
Ram
Ram.
Hare Hare.
Pancha
Sarvadharmyascha Kripasinubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Namo Namaha.
Namaha.
Hare Rama, Hare
Hey.
Rama, Rama Rama.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Bol.